Hi, and welcome to Knit Therapy. My name is Jennifer, and this is episode number 1. If you stumbled upon my channel today, I am so excited that you have. I just wanted to a little bit about my knitting life and what I have on my needles and objects that I have finished. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself before we move on. I am a wife. I am 57 years old. I live in upstate New York with my husband and our 2 kitties. We are a blended family with 5 children who um, have all moved on in their lives. They're young adults, ranging in ages from 20 to 30 years old. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to start my own YouTube channel is because I love knitting. I love knitting every day. Um, I find that I am longing for a sense of community in the knitting world. I don't have anyone in my life that is a knitter, friends or family members. I have found many YouTubers recently, really since the fall. I've really started watching a lot of YouTube knitting videos, and I have found them so inspiring. I feel like they're my people in the knitting world, and because I've been so inspired by them, um, it has uh, it has encouraged me to inspire other people. There may be others out there who don't have any knitters in their lives. And I hope that you find that this inspires you in your knitting journey. Um, I have not been knitting all that long. I have learned to knit as a child and crochet when in my younger years. My mom used to knit the cotton dishcloths, and I started really by knitting those. My mom did not move on to garment knitting or anything like that, so I didn't learn a lot from her as far as all the other different things that you can make. So I knitted as a young woman, and then I decided about, I don't know, 15 years ago, I was getting the urge to knit some more, and I found YouTube, and I taught myself how to knit things such as hats. Was one of the first things in knitting in the round, and it taught me how to do that. Actually, I have the hat here. I'm going to show you. This is one of the first few hats that I had made, and I actually made quite a few of these as gifts. This is just made out of Line Brand um, Woolies Thick and Quick. But these are great little hats. I still wear this one. So my journey started with making hats and things. And then I did try my hand at a few cardigans that had to be sewn together. So you make the back panel and the sleeves and the front panels, and then you sew them together. And I quickly learned that I didn't like that experience of sewing all the pieces together. Um, I don't think I sewed them together well, and B, it was it was a lot of work to be able to do that, and you had to make sure the sleeves were the right length. It just wasn't fun for me. So then I sort of pivoted a little, and I started seeing all really neat things that you could make with crochet on a lot of people's Instagram pages. And I did know how to crochet. I knew how to crochet granny squares. That was pretty much it. So I really took a deep dive into crocheting for about 3 or 4 years, and I made many things. I made hexie cardies, I made blankets, I made pocketbooks, and then I even decided that I wanted to line them with fabric. So I bought a beginner singer sewing machine, and I taught myself how to do that. So I was enjoying it. And then last fall, um, a lot more knitting content started to come across my feed on my social medias. And it really encouraged me and opened my eyes to a whole different world of knitting that I hadn't really seen before. And I had just come off of a huge crochet project. I made a granny square blanket for a friend. Um, and I made, I think it was supposed to be 120 granny squares. And I think I got to 90. And I was just like, okay, enough of this. This is going to be a big enough blanket. And after all the time of making the squares and sewing it together, it was a 5 month project, and it was a labor of love, and I'm so thrilled that I made it for her. Um, but I was crocheted out, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I started to lean back into knitting. Fast forward, I would say this was maybe September of last year. I really had the urge to make a garment, make myself a sweater. And I came across a designer. Her name is Julia Pirro. Some of you may have heard of her. She really is an amazing pattern writer and helper of the beginner knitter. She creates her patterns so that beginners or advanced beginners can easily make a garment, can follow her YouTube tutorials on all her garments. And I'm telling you, it just changed everything for me. Um, so I had that in my head that I wanted to make one of her sweaters, and it was going into the holiday season, and that was my goal to start this past January. Let me just back up a little bit. In between that, I decided that I was just going to start knitting a little bit more, some smaller projects, just to start honing my skills. And of course, the small scarf got on the small scarf bandwagon. So I do have a few things I want to show you that I did make, um, which will kind of bring me now into my finished objects. And the first thing I want to show you is the Sophie scarf. Um, I made this with leftover yarn from one of those cardigans I had made. And this is a Lion brand yarn. It is called Jeans. And unfortunately, I don't have, there is some wool in it. I can't remember exactly what is in it or the colorway. But I had some left over, and I decided to make a Sophie scarf. I figured this would be really nice for fall. So I made my first Sophie scarf, and it was a lot of fun. Um, so then I went on to make another. So this was the first Sophie scarf I made. And then I decided, you know what, um, I want to use a nicer yarn. Because at this part of my journey, I didn't know anything about yarns or, you know, the different fibers and things. But I did start to see, the merino wools and things of that nature, and cashmere, of course. So I went to my local yarn shop nearby, and I picked out a ball of yarn, and it was a cash merino. So it's merino wool in cashmere. Unfortunately, I wasn't keeping a journal at that point of my yarns and things of that nature. So I don't know that, I don't recall the brand. But this is the Sophie scarf. I made this one a little longer than I made, and it's just so soft and so beautiful. And I called it my first bougie yarn purchase because I think I paid $18 for this 50-gram ball. Um, and but what a difference! I mean, it's beautiful. So this is my second Sophie scarf that I made. Then I stumbled upon Kutavakika's toasty scarf pattern, and I ended up, and I don't have it to show you, but I decided to make one for my cousin. Her birthday was in December. So I purchased a merino wool from through Drops. And again, I don't have that information, but it was sort of an ice blue color, a little bit lighter than my sweater I'm wearing. And I made her the Stay Toasty scarf as a gift, and that came out really beautiful. So my love for knitting started to blossom, and now we're getting ready for the beginning of the year, and I wanted to, work on that that sweater. So the sweater that I made is actually the sweater I'm wearing. This is called my first star sweater. Let's stand up so you can see it. It has about 5 inches of positive ease, and this is a Julia Pirro recipe, and I do highly recommend it to anyone, especially if you're a newer knitter and you really want to learn how to knit. A little bit about the construction. It is a circular yoke construction. I made it with the recommended yarn, which was Drops Nepal. I this is I still have I have about 3 of these little skeins left. I didn't weigh it, but I'm guessing it's probably about 100 grams or maybe a little more. left of the yarn, which is great. I didn't have to worry about yarn chicken. Um, but it's a really nice yarn. I know it's got a really great price point. In fact, I think the whole sweater quantity was like $35 for this yarn. I think I had to pay like $15 for the shipping and the tariffs and all of that, but it's a very um, good price point for yarn, and I'm very happy with the quality. It's very soft. This is such a cozy, cozy sweater. Let me just get my notes here. I can tell you, I believe I made the size extra large. Okay, so I started this on January the 10th, and I finished it on February 1st. So it flew off my needles. I made it in like 3 weeks. The size is an extra large. I made it on a needle, a size 7 needle for the ribbing and a size 9 needle for the body. My gauge was 16 stitches by 4 inches. And it is an Aran weight yarn, and the color is 8913, which is sort of a gray blue. So yeah, so this was my very first sweater that I made, and it was fantastic. I had so much fun making it. And the way she teaches and is so understandable and relatable, I had no problems following the tutorial. There are German short rows in the back. So that I found that to be very easy. I know people are intimidated by that, but it does really help the fit. I just feel like the way it sits, um, her sizing is fantastic. It's very inclusive. I think it goes from like a size extra, extra small to like a 5X. Um, in the middle of making this, I have found I like to have an easier project on the needles that I can take on the go. And I am really into these small scarves now, as many knitters are. So during that time, I also cast on an Uma scarf. So I'm going to show you that right now. And here she is. This is my Uma scarf. It is a pattern by Petite Knit. I absolutely love this color, and I chose the blue contrasting for the edge. This is the medium sized Uma scarf. It comes in 3 different sizes. There's a small, a medium, and a larger one. I think that this size is great. I'll even kind of just finished it on January 24th. I did it on a size 4 needle, and I use Lana Gatto VIP yarn that is made in Italy, and I actually have the yarn right here to show you. So here it is. This is the contrasting color, and then I actually have a little bit of the green left. I bought 2 balls of the green and 1 ball of the blue. Now, I literally used maybe 2 grams of the blue for that trim. So I did have to buy a whole ball. The color for the green is color number 12942, and the color for the navy blue is 10175. And it is 80% merino extra fine and 20% cashmere. So it is an absolutely beautiful feeling forever, this scarf. I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't make another one. So that is my Uma scarf from Petite Knit. Okay. So after I finish this sweater, of course, you probably feel the same way. Your mind is already, what am I going to make next when this is over? And I decided that I wanted to make a sweater by Kutavakika, and I chose, excuse me, I'm sorry, everything I have on the floor next to me. The second sweater I cast on is her late checkout sweater. So I haven't gotten very far yet. Oh, let me back up. I have one more finished object, and I apologize. Actually, I have two more. So in the fall, in between making the Say Toasty scarf, as well as my first, or my second Sophie scarf, I was finding that the gloves I've been wearing forever are not keeping my hands warm. And as you know, most of us in this country, we have had a very, very cold winter. So I decided to knit myself a pair of gloves. So I knit these. This is a recipe by Tin Can Knits. If you're not familiar with Tin Can Knits, I highly recommend you go check it out. They have an app, and their app is really comprehensive to use. And they have a bunch of free patterns. So this is, I think they call this the world's easiest mittens, if I remember correctly. But I followed this pattern. It was so easy and so great. And the yarn I chose for this, a different spot in my journal. I cast these on December 18th. They took me, I know I had them done like right after Christmas. I don't have the exact date. It's called The World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits. I made them in a size medium. I used Camellia Fiber Co. Yarn. It is called Serene Merino Aran. It's 100% merino wool, 218 yards or 200 meters by 100-gram ball, 8-ply, non-superwash, and it's in the color called charcoal. Now, I did want to show you, they are starting to have some pilling, but I wear them all the time, and they are wool, and they are super, super warm. They're very soft. I love the fabric it made. It's not holey, so I don't have, air coming through when I'm wearing them. I do like to walk. My husband and I like to walk. So I found that when we were taking our walks, I had regular gloves instead of mittens, and my fingers were freezing. So really great pattern if you're looking to make some mittens. Okay, one more finished object to show you. And this one is a free pattern I found on Ravelry. It is made by, she also has a YouTube channel. I think I found her YouTube channel first, and then that prompted me to go and get her pattern. I didn't realize it was a free pattern at the time. She's called An Italian Knitter, and the item that I made it's called An Italian Summer Scarf. And I actually just finished this yesterday. And here it is. It makes this pretty laced pattern. She has, I believe, 3 sizes. This is the medium size. And I'll tell you about the yarn. This is my first time using a superwash yarn. This is Haiku Sueño. It is a superwash merino, and the colorway is called Denim. And I used 100-gram. Actually, I had a 100-gram ball. I actually have two. I bought 2 skeins of this, so I had to dig into my second skein. I did measure it, weigh it halfway through, and I want to say I thought it was at 48 grams, thinking that when I did the decreases, I would have enough. But when I was getting down to the end yesterday, I saw that, I was so close, and I thought I would rip back a little and do some rapid decreases to it, but I had another skein, and I just didn't want to do that. So here's my other skein right here, and I ended up using just 3 grams of this ball to finish this scarf yesterday. But again, it's just about a 100-gram ball. There's plenty I can do with it, and I actually have another one that is a light gray color that I could pair up and make another scarf with, or use as stripes in a a sweater. I'm not really sure yet what I'm going to do with it, but I have not blocked this yet. I do plan on blocking it. I think it will, you know, stretch out a little bit more. But it's nice. It feels nice. What else can I tell you about it? I cast it on January the 26th, and I finished it yesterday, March 7th. I used a size 4 needle, and yeah, I think that was it. The color is 1138. Denim is the color. Okay, so now we'll move into my WIPS in progress. So back to my Kudavakika sweater. I really love jewel tones. Um, I've never had my colors done. Um, I'm I believe I am a cool winter, is what I believe I am. And I believe that because I find that jewel tones seem to be my color, and I'm really attracted to jewel tone um, fabrics. So I found, um, again, I was influenced by a YouTuber, and she was using some Knit Picks yarn, and she was talking about the palette uh, line of Knit Picks, and it is a fingering weight yarn. So I was just kind of out there on the website for Knit Picks, and when I saw this color, I I was like, I need that color in my life. I'm going to make a sweater with it, and I'm just going to buy the yarn, and I'm going to figure out what sweater I'm going to make with it. So it is a fingering weight yarn. The color is like a magenta. I'm going to tell you exactly what they call it. Um, Fairy Tale. The colorway is called Fairy Tale. It has 231 yards and is a 50-gram ball. And so I bought it knowing that I would be holding it double to make a DK weight sweater. So I landed on Kudavakika's late checkout sweater, and I cast it on February the 7th. And the size I cast it, well, let me go back a little bit. The gauge, it wasn't matching up. I couldn't get gauge with what she wanted. I knew for this sweater that I wanted more positive ease than this one. And I have a store-bought sweater in my wardrobe that I love. It is a 100% cotton sweater, very fine gauge knitting, V-neck, and it has 10 inches of positive ease on me. And it's so cozy and so comfy. So I've kind of figured that, you know what, I would love to make a sweater with the same positive ease. So I did a little knitting math, and it always scared me to do when I hear knitters talking about the knitting math. I am not a math person, um, but I found um, a reel by a girl. I think it was shared on another podcaster's podcast. And I ended up finding the girl I think on TikTok, the knitter, and how she figures out the ease, or excuse me, the gauge when you have, yarn that doesn't match up and needle size that doesn't match up. So let me first finish telling you, I ended up sizing up in this based on the gauge I was getting in the formula. Um, I did do 2 swatches. I first swatched on a size 6 needle and 18 stitches per 4 inches. The gauge that Kudavakika is getting is 16 inches. So this was giving me 18. Uh, so then I swatched on a size 7 needle, and I was getting the 16 inches. In order for me to have the positive ease that I wanted, I actually had to make the size 5 um, on this particular pattern, which normally I wouldn't make a size 5. Um, I probably, if I hadn't met gauge and all of that, I probably would have made a 4. So um, her pattern measurements were a size 8 needle. She was getting the 16 stitches. So after doing the math, I am making a size 5. Um, I have laid it out next to my store-bought sweater, and it is looking really good. So let me show you the sweater because I haven't done that yet. Show you where I am at. So here it is. So I have it on hold right now, but you started the construction in the back. You made the trapezoid in the back. This was the first time I had done this because, again, it's only my second sweater. You did all the increases right here, and you started casting on for the neck. You went into the increases, and then you picked up stitches and you knit this front section, the right and then the left. And then when you got down to a certain point, you connected in the round. So this is where I'm at. It is, the collar seems pretty wide, but I also noticed that hers is pretty wide, and it looks like it's a pretty wide ribbing. I think it's going to be fine. So here, I haven't obviously picked up for sleeves yet. So from underneath the armhole to the bottom here is just about 10 inches, maybe 10 and a quarter inches. I am very, very short waisted. So I'm going to just hold this up. This is good for me. It looks so short. But for my body shape, I believe this is good for me. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to add my ribbing. And then I believe her pattern says to go into, and we'll pick up for the neckline, and then we'll do the sleeves after that. But I just am so in love with this color. This yarn is a little rustic feeling, but I have read online that once you block it, it does really bloom nicely and it softens up. So I am just really, really happy with this. And the reason why this has been on hold for me, because I did cast it on February the 7th, and in my mind, this flew off my needles in 3 weeks, but this is also an Aran weight yarn. And from what I'm finding, circular yolks seem to knit up faster in the very little experience that I have had. But again, knitting is about for me, yes, I want the finished product, but it's also the process. It's just enjoying the meditative, repetitive making of the stitches and knowing that you're making this garment for yourself. That is just huge to me. And then to be able to wear it, um, if you're a knitter, you know what I'm talking about. So I put this on hold because in the middle of making this, Julia Pirro put out a call for test knitters. She has a new design for spring that's called the Nuance tee, and she put out on Instagram stories that she's looking for test knitters. And it's funny when I watch other knitting YouTubers and they talk about their test knits, I would always be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till I can get to that point where I'm actually, have enough skills that I can do a test knit. And then I'm like, well, who would want me to test knit? So I see Julia's come out and I clicked on the link and she had written in there what her criteria was. And her criteria was that if you've made at least one garment, if you've made two, great. But if you've made at least one, she was looking for you, for me. So I took a shot in the dark and I sent her a little note and said I would love to be a test knitter for you, and she accepted me. So I'm so very excited to have my very first test knit going on. Again, it's a very beginner friendly pattern. She's going to have a knitting tutorial, or a video tutorial, excuse me, to go with it. So, and it just so happened I had the yarn in my stash because there were two other patterns of hers that I wanted to make coming into springtime. So I had already bought the yarn that she had suggested. And drop spell is, let's see, cotton 50, I think it says 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. Her sample actually is made in the Sanascarn Line, but drop spell is the same. Some of this in this pretty sage green color, and I knit up the gauge swatch, and I met Gauge, and I said, you know, I had a sweater's quantity, so I might as well use what I have in stash. So let me show you where that's at. Okay, so here it is, and hopefully I can put a picture up here in my editing when I edit this later. But I will try to post a picture of what the tee is going to look like. But here we are so far. Um, it's a circular yoke construction again. Has a little bit of a more narrow ribbing at the top. And then this beautiful mesh stitch. So the top is going to be like probably about this much of it is mesh, and then you go into stockinette for the rest of it. So I'm just finished yesterday the mesh portion, and I think I've gotten three rows of stockinette after that. So now we're going into a few. I have to do a few more increase rounds in the yoke for my size. And I think I am doing the size extra large for her. Yeah, so I'm really excited and to be doing my first test knit. And what's even better is I'm going to have a spring garment like ready on April 1st to be wearing. So that's my Nuance tee. Okay. So a couple more things. I have, so I've showed you my finished objects. I've shown you my WIPS in progress. Or my works in progress, my WIPs, and I have a few acquisitions. So I will show you those next. The first acquisition is actually this cute little project bag, which I have my Nuance tee in. I thought it was so sweet for spring. This is Bunny Squad. My husband and I went to our local mall last weekend, and they had like a vendor fair going on, and there was a gal selling these, and I just had to have one. So my new little project bag right there. I've also acquired some yarns. So when I did that Knit Picks order for the Kutuvakika sweater, I saw this. It's called Knit Picks Capra. Oh, look at this color. It's gorgeous, like a periwinkle. This is a DK weight. The color is Ciel, Ciel. 123 yards, 50 grams, and fine merino wool and 15% cashmere. So it's pretty soft. Not the softest merino cashmere that I have used or tried, but it is nice, and the color got me. So this will probably end up being another small scarf. But I love the small scarf trend because you can really just dress up an outfit very easily. You can take it off if you get hot, you can put it on. And I feel like I'm just going to have one on the needles all the time because I'm just that much in love with them. And I just think they make great gifts. Like if you need a gift for someone, they knit up pretty quickly as well. So that's that. Um, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, my husband and I on a Saturday decided to take a little ride, and so we went about an hour away from our house, and we did a little antiquing and flea marketing and that kind of thing. And of course, everywhere in my travels now, I'm like, there's got to be a yarn shop around here. So we did. There was within 5 miles of where we were eating breakfast, there was a yarn shop, and we went, and I got this gorgeous yarn, and I just caked it up. So it doesn't look as beautiful caked as it did, but it is a self-striping yarn. So it starts off with this really dark, like teal, then it goes into a lighter teal, and then a light gray, and then a little, and then I think there's even a lighter gray in the cream. Um, and this is a fingering weight yarn. And let me tell you the name of it. Pull this out. It is Echoes is the brand, and Echoes Gusto wool. This is, oh, it's hand dyed too. This is a hand dyed yarn. Sock weight yarn, 80% merino and 20% nylon. Superwash, 440 yards, and it's 100 grams. So I do have two of these caked up right here. So what I plan to do with this is, of course, I do have an idea, is I have been wanting to knit up a jaunty by Andrea Mowry. I believe it's a half fisherman's rib scarf. The great thing about the jaunty, a lot of people are using their hand spun yarn to knit up these jaunties. I'm not a spinner, but the other great thing about it is Andrea says to just be creative. Use any weight yarn, any type of yarn, and you can knit these up. She has, I think, 3 different options that she, or I should say samples that she knit up. She did a fingering weight one. She did, I think, a DK and maybe it's not a bulky, maybe it's an Aran. I don't recall, but one is really bulky. Personally, I prefer not a bulky scarf around my neck. I like a thinner scarf, and even if I have to wrap it a few times. So that's why I decided to go with the fingering weight yarn. It does call for 100 grams. So I think this is going to take me a while. Take me a while on like I think it's 2.75 needle, so millimeter needle. But I'm just going to have this going in the background, especially now that I finished my Italian summer scarf. I do want to cast this on just to have kind of working in the background of my other WIPs that I have going on. And I think I'm just trying to look around on the floor around me. I think that is it for today. I am so thrilled if you stopped by and you made it to the end of this video. I hope to be doing these right now. My plan is once a month. If I can do it sooner than that, all the better. I'm really not sure about the whole editing thing. The filming for me and the talking is the easy part. The editing, I'm a little technically challenged. So I think is the only thing that might be slowing me down with wanting to do it more often. And I do have a full-time job. So I love to knit and I love talking about knitting, and I am so glad that you stopped by today. I hope that you come by again, and if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and I hope to see you really soon. And thanks for coming along for some knit therapy. Have a good one.